People who've actually slept with their step-sibling or sibling. How did it happen, and how is your relationship affected? Story 1. My parents are actual step-siblings. They began dating when they were teenagers, and when their parents met, they fell in love and got married, making my mom and dad step-siblings. They ended up moving in together since they were both still living with their parents, and my grandparents just let them share a room. It's always been a joke in our family that my mom is my aunt and my dad is my uncle, and my brothers are my cousins. Story 2. I slept with my stepsister. She came in town to visit her dad, and when I went outside to help bring luggage in, she gave me the frick me eyes as soon as she saw me, and instantly I knew I was in trouble. For a week and a half, I kept being polite and trying to remain distant, because I had been warned by my stepdad and her brothers to not even look in her direction, not bring any friends over, not do anything wrong, and I had absolutely no intention of doing so. But it was the first time I had ever had anyone want me that badly, and I gave in, and we secretly got together for the remainder of the month that she spent in town. We were both young and dumb and fell in love, and thought we hid it well, but when they found out after she left, I got my beat. For a few years, they wouldn't let her visit, and we kept in touch. Then after college, I moved to where she lived, and we have been together ever since. 11 years now, and we have a 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. Everyone is completely fine with it now, and we make jokes about it all. Ooh, I'm not sure how to explain that feeling I have in my gut right now. At first, it seems like a real cute and romantic love story, similar to Romeo and Juliet. But then you add the part about where they're brother and sister, and it just makes it all into one huge mess. Story 3. I knew a guy. He and his stepsister didn't grow up together. They didn't see one another often at family events. As he described it, their encounters got progressively more flirty. They mutually decided to go for it. She was eager for him, and he was too. He struggled over it. Our group of friends gave him a lot of crap as we itemized the cons. He vacillated between repulsion and desire, and wasn't sure what he would ultimately do. Within a few days, he texted us a picture of stepsister written in lipstick on a female's bare chest. He freaked out after and felt really ashamed. Within a week, they were at the same family party, and she jumped on him in the bathroom. He had a pretty serious panic attack and went on some meds, to be precise, Xanax. It wasn't all that serious. He settled down after they talked and decided never to do it or talk about it again. Story 4. Growing up, I knew 2 sisters who would fool around at parties. One was a little older than the other, so I always assumed the younger one did it to be included, and the older one did it for attention. I knew their older sister pretty well, and she always shrugged it off because they never went further than making out and light groping. She was way more reserved than the other 2, but all the girls dealt with some level of abnormal sexual energy. It's just that for her, it was more of a shy curiosity. I knew the younger sisters well enough to end up being the one they'd call to pick them up from parties that have gone bad, because they knew I always looked out for their older sister in school, and I wouldn't tell their parents about the trouble they got into, which eventually meant they confided in me about some things here and there, mainly with their struggle to understand guys their age and navigate the hormonal fools, hence why I sometimes had to pick them up from parties gone bad, meaning sausage fests where they felt uncomfortable. By the time the older of the 2 was graduating, I learned they actually did a whole lot more behind closed doors than just making out and light groping. They were close enough in age to have a shared bedroom and have been best friends most of their childhood, and they were a lot alike, so they were inseparable. 2 extremely curious girls with little understanding of norms, staying together and being as close as conjoined twins is a weird cocktail of hormones and naivety. So things happened over the years until it became commonplace for them and kept happening till their late teens. Honestly, to this day, they both are easily categorized as 2 of the most drop-dead gorgeous women I've ever personally known in my entire life. So it's almost like some strange taboo fantasy, except that they're not exactly cliché types. I mean, they were a little loose with sex between each other and obviously enjoyed showing off, but they weren't actually apart from that. Seriously, they both remained virgins till their late teens or early 20s, aside from fooling around with each other. It's this weird concoction of curious sexuality and vanilla reserved attitudes all in one for both of them, and it would totally seem like a contradiction until you met them. It's hard to explain. One is married with 2 kids and works as a makeup artist for television and movies now, and the other is a structural engineer who ended up becoming a high school math teacher because that was the kind of job she always wanted. Unfortunately, the older sister, who was far more reserved overall, ended up going through a lot and having what I'd call a mental breakdown, and she has a shaky relationship with the rest of the family now. Story 5. Mom dated a guy. Guy had a son same age as me. We hated our parents and slept together. Had a fun time. Broke up due to him using drugs and me not dealing with it. Both are married to other people and happy. We don't even talk, even though we see each other at family gatherings after our parents got married. Edit to clarify. He was just using drugs for years. Lied to me over and over that he was clean, and he wasn't. I was always trying to support him, but he just didn't want to clean up yet. He did clean up for his wife. I mean, it's kind of messed up that you got into a relationship with him, or whatever you feel comfortable calling it in the first place, but at least it was a good decision on your end to ditch him from your life because of his abuse of drugs. Story 6. We started fooling around when I was 17 and she was 16. Our families had recently been blended and we were living together for the first time. We just slowly grew closer together and eventually kissed. I'd often sneak into her bedroom late at night. Since somebody's going to ask, I'd say she was and remains a solid 8 out of 10, both in terms of looks and personality. I'm a 6.5 out of 10 on a good day. It was all first through third base for a number of years. She wanted me to, but I didn't want to take her virginity. We cooled off because I went away to school and got a serious girlfriend. We ended up hooking up and having sex on the regular for a few years when we lived in the same city and we were both single. We stopped when we both got partners. The sex was nice, not extraordinary or anything. It was fun to have this family secret in our adolescence. As adults, it just didn't seem like anybody else's business. That was about 15 years ago. We're close now, and we've helped each other through tough times, but we're totally platonic. I don't regret it at all. It was just an act of lust between horny teenagers that deepened to acts of loving affection between consenting adults. Story 7. I was seeing a girl right after graduating high school. My dad knew her mom somehow, but she was married at the time. Didn't work out with this girl, but her mom and my dad are basically married at this point. Story 8. Oh God, this is just bad. Okay, so it wasn't my sibling, but a step-cousin on my stepfather's side of the family. There is a group of kids and a group of us all around the same age. Whenever he would have get-togethers, we teens always hung out, until recently when we joined the adults. But I was 15 during my peak, I guess you could say, and we all decided to play truth or dare. Now, for context, I joined their lives after they were already 12 or so, and I was the only white guy. I was more their best friend of sorts than a relative, and I had been previously caught checking out one of the girls on the last visit. In my defense, she had worn a tight dress at the time, which showed off her assets. So the 2 other guys naturally made me kiss her, for their own reasons, I suppose. Me and her kinda had the same expression of, okay then, game on. So we did it. We were the 2 ballsy ones of the group, and usually didn't back down from a challenge. Everyone did their hoots, and when it was her turn, they told her to make out with me. Story 9. Obligatory, not me or even quite step-sibling, but still a fun story. One of my dad's friends, let's call him Rob, was partially crazy. Admitted to a mental hospital briefly for running around town in tighty-whities and trying to get into his ex-wife's house. I grew up around this guy, so it was great. He's dead now, so the fun times are over. Anyways, Rob and his ex did have a daughter. Well, his brother and his brother's wife split at some point, and they have a son, Rob's nephew. One thing obviously leads to another, and Rob and his ex-sister-in-law get together. And you guessed it, get married. So now Rob's nephew is also his stepson, and his daughter is also now stepdaughter to her aunt. Story 10. Our parents met at our wedding. Mom was a widow, my father-in-law divorced, so we weren't step-siblings when we got married, but it still freaks people out. Confused the hell out of our kids, especially when I'd beg them to call me auntie when we went into stores. They were the devil's own in stores. Story 11. My older brother dated our older stepsister. He was 15 to 16. She was 30 to 32. My mom was livid about it. Her dad pretended it wasn't happening. She was a bit of a sugar mama, bought him lots of nice stuff, flew him places, she took him to parties and did drugs with him, etc. Slept with him. My mom thinks she dated my brother just to spite her. I don't know how valid that is. Wouldn't surprise me. But my mom was also a piece of work, and to get back at her and her husband for allowing it, She slept with her stepson. Don't worry, I'm still in therapy. Story 12. I slept with two of my stepsisters. My mom had been dating a guy for about 10 years. I had met one of his daughters when I was in high school years ago when we all went on a family vacation. Let's call her sister number 1. I had a feeling she liked me, playing footsie under the table, etc. But nothing came of it, and I never saw her again until I was in college. One day I'm stuck in a part of town real late after the train stops running. No way to get home. I remember my mom's boyfriend lives around there. I walk to his house. Only his daughter is home. Mind you, we're both around 21 now. She lets me in and we start hanging out and drinking. One thing leads to another, and At some point, her father came home, but he didn't say anything and just went to bed. Second story is about the sister of the girl mentioned above. Let's call her sister number 2. We went to the same college. She was a year ahead of me and was supposed to be my mentor. I ended up messing around with all her friends from the dorms because I was the cute little brother. But she was always just big sis. Cute little brother indeed. Just like all these stories, it leaves a little bit of discomfort after hearing it. But that's part of the world, folks. Every kind of person you can imagine out there. Story 13. My cousin-in-law, adopted, African. We used to play mommy and daddy, and our games got serious real quick. We used to kiss, a lot. We were 8 or 9 at the time, and were just mimicking what we saw on TV. The whole family knew, but never really cared. They did make jokes about it during Christmas, when we were older. Our current relationship is awkward, but pleasant. We get along well, but you can't undo some memories of having your entire family laugh at you. I didn't talk to her between the ages of 10 and 17. She's a year younger, because I watched Harold and Kumar go to White Castle and realized how weird it was to have a relationship inside a family. Story 14. I dated I believe it was third cousin once removed or something like that for about 6 months. We'd already been exclusively dating for like a month when I mentioned my great-great-grandfather, who is a tiny bit famous in my state, and he knew exactly who I was talking about, which is not normal. Turns out it's because that guy was also his great-great-grandfather. I freaked out and asked my mom about her family history. He asked his mom. Great-great-grandfather was a polygamist. I came from one wife, and he came from another. It was weird, but not weird enough to stop. I remember going to his grandmother's house for Thanksgiving, located in the area that aforementioned great-great-grandfather was famous for, and marveled at how similar it was to my own grandma's house. Thanks, Mormons. Edit. I forgot I have another story. I dated someone for 5 years. We got engaged, and he ended our relationship via email 7 weeks before the wedding. He's a total piece of crap. But we were also distantly related. We both are descended from Samuel Adams. I thought it was hilarious. He was horrified and reconsidered our relationship. Yes, the roots of the family tree of us all are complicated and tangled down there under the ground of history. Never know who you might descend from or who may be related to you. I figure, though, that if you didn't even know the person that connects you before, then why bother worrying about it and let that ruin your relationship with the person that you've actually made a connection with? Canceling the wedding over email just because of this seems like a bit of an overreaction to me. Story 15. My dad's brother married my mom's sister. My parents somehow didn't really meet until several months after the wedding. My cousins and I are as close to incest as it gets without actually crossing blood relatives. Just for fun, my siblings have a different dad than me, so I actually look more related to those cousins than I do my own siblings. I just try to not explain that to people, but it definitely is weird when it gets out. Edit. I should explain it's only weird because people get confused until they figure out it's just 2 sisters married 2 brothers. My parents are now divorced anyway, so it rarely comes up. Or if we have a get-together and a newcomer mentions, it's funny I look like my cousins, and my siblings and I don't look related pretty much. Please leave your story down below in the comments. I would absolutely love to make a video about them in the future. And also don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.